Like, I remember when the money wasn't there, supposed to send you 50. I got you, man. Gave my lawyer money there when I fight my case. I ain't got to get into that. Bro made sure he made a way for me to be straight.
That's how Lil Durk held it down for Till. Jam turned around and betrayed him. Now, everything's changed. A new video just dropped showing Jam begging for his life, and it's going viral. It's raw, it's emotional, and the internet's asking one question: is this the end of Jam? Because if there's one thing we know about Durk, it's that he doesn't let betrayal slide. Let's break it all down. Jam went from being one of Lil Durk's most loyal soldiers to possibly being the rat who brought down the whole operation. Now he's out here pleading for forgiveness, begging for his life. And if there's one thing we know about Durk, it's that he gets revenge. But before we dive into the federal case drama and why the streets are calling for Jam's head, we need to look at the details most people are missing. Because this ain't just some random dude who got caught up. This was supposed to be family. This was supposed to be that unbreakable loyalty, the kind the culture is built on. But real talk, sometimes the ones closest to you are the ones who hurt you the most. Jam and Lil Durk's relationship goes way back, before any of us even knew who they were. We're talking childhood homies from the Chi, grew up in the same neighborhoods, dealt with the same struggles, the same poverty, the same violence that shapes young men in these streets. In a 2023 interview with DJ Jerry, Jam spoke about how Durk was like a brother to him. They made music for block parties and community gatherings long before Durk ever blew up.
Like, I remember when the money wasn't there, supposed to send you 50. I got you, man.
This was back when Durk was just another young cat from Chicago trying to make something happen with his rap skills. They weren't thinking about record deals, federal cases, or any of that heavy stuff. They were just homies from the block, out for each other, grinding together, dreaming about making it out of the hood. But then, life happened, and life in Chicago ain't no joke. Back in 2010, when Jam was barely legal at 17 years old, he caught an attempted murder case and got hit with a 12-year sentence. Now, we ain't gonna get into all the specifics of what went down, that's between him and the streets. But what matters is what happened next. This is where most friendships die. When your homeboy gets locked up for over a decade, most people move on. They get new friends, new priorities, new lives. The letters stop coming, the phone calls get shorter, and the visits become non-existent. That's just the reality of the streets. Out of sight, out of mind. But Durk, Nahomi, was different. As his career started to take off, as he began making real money and building his empire, he never forgot about his day one sitting in that cell. And we ain't talking about just sending some commissary money or keeping him on the books. We're talking about the kind of loyalty legends are made of. During Jam's whole 12-year bid, Lil Durk provided support that was straight up unheard of. Real talk, most rappers won't even help their own blood relatives when they're locked up. But Durk was moving different. This dude was covering legal fees, and y'all know how expensive a good lawyer is, especially for serious cases, like attempted murder.
Gave my lawyer money there when I fight my case. I ain't got to get into that. Bro made sure.
The financial support was just the beginning. When Jam finally walked out of those prison gates in February 2022, Durk had a full welcome home package waiting for him. We're talking about the kind of homecoming most people can only dream of. First, Durk bought him a house, not just any house, but a real spot where Jam could lay his head, rebuild his life, and find some stability after more than a decade behind bars. Then he copped him a car, so Jam could move around on his own, handle his business, and start putting the pieces of his life back together. But even that wasn't enough for Durk. This man went ahead and handed Jam $50,000 in cash as a welcome home gift. 50 grand, just like that. That's more money than a lot of people see in an entire year, and Durk gave it up like it was nothing, because that's how much loyalty meant to him.
He said, Jam, get out that jam, I'll give him 50, he ain't gotta ask again, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying, he ain't gotta ask, bro.
He said, Jam, get out that jam, I'ma give him 50. He ain't gotta ask again, bro. You know what I'm saying? He didn't even have to ask. That kind of loyalty is rare, so real, so genuine that Durk even referenced it in the music. Specifically, on King Von's track Back Again, where he rapped, Jam, get out that jam. I gave him 50, ain't gotta ask again. Think about that. Durk was so proud of how he held his homeboy down, he put it in a song for the world to hear. And the gratitude from Jam It seemed real, too. He publicly acknowledged Durk's loyalty, saying, "Bro played his part. Fasho."
Bro, like, played his part for sure, like, overplayed it. I love bro for that.
Here's a rewritten and grammatically corrected version of your text. Keeping the tone raw, but clear and polished, overplayed it. I love bro for that. Bro played his part, for sure, like overplayed it. I love bro. But this wasn't just about money or material things. Durk brought Jam into the FF family as an artist, featuring him on tracks like No Complaints and Focus in 2022 and 2023. He was giving Jam a legit path to make money, build a career, and stay out of trouble. Everything seemed perfect. The homie was home, he was getting back on his feet, he was part of a successful organization, and he had the kind of loyal friend most people in the streets never find. This was supposed to be the happy ending, a story of real friendship, surviving the worst of circumstances. But then October 24th, 2024 happened and everything changed. That's when Lil Durk was arrested in Florida on federal murder for hire charges, not state charges, not some local beef. Federal charges, the kind that can put you away for life. Or worse, the case was connected to a 2022 plot targeting rapper, Quando Rando, which resulted in the death of Rando's cousin, Servia Lou Pab Robinson. 5 other members were swept up too. Now, when the feds come with a case like this, they don't roll in with theories and gut feelings. They come armed with evidence, recordings, documentation, the kind of proof that can bury you. But what really had the streets talking was this. How did the feds know so much about the inner workings of FF? That's when the whispers started. That's when people began asking who had been talking, who had been cooperating, who had been wearing wires, recording conversations. And unfortunately for Jam, all eyes turned to him. After Durk's arrest, rumors started flying that Jam had been cooperating with authorities, allegedly wearing a wire for years to gather evidence against Durk and other members. And these weren't just trolls on the internet starting drama. These were serious allegations, coming from serious people in the hip-hop community. Industry figures like DJ Academics, Wack 100, and Chicago rapper King Yalla all started pointing fingers at Jam. These cats don't just throw accusations around for does.clout, they got connects, they got sources, and they hear things before the public ever asterisk.
You know, we learned a lot when all this came out, man. You know, there's been a lot of allegations, you know, about people snitching. You know, so the main person they're talking about snitching is OTF.
While Wack 100 claimed he flipped after catching a new gun charge. The theory was simple. Jam got jammed up again shortly after getting out, and rather than face more Jam acting nervous around Durk, people on social media started speculating that he was wearing a wire. To a lot of people, this video became the smoking gun. They watched it and didn't see a loyal friend. They saw someone uncomfortable, someone hiding something, someone who might have been recording every conversation, every moment of trust for the feds. And then the paperwork started lining up with the rumors. Angelus mentioned that an FF member had been acting as a confidential informant. While Jam wasn't named directly, anyone familiar with how federal cases work knows the feds use initials and code names to protect their sources, at least until trial. But what made the alleged betrayal so devastating wasn't just the legal implications. It was personal. This wasn't just some associate or hang around. This was supposed to be family, the same dude Durk held down during a 12-year bid. If the allegations were true, then every conversation Jam had with Durk after his release, every moment they shared could have been recorded and handed over to federal agents. Think about how cold that is. You sit in prison for 12 years. He welcomes you home like a brother, and you repay that loyalty by helping the feds build a case against him. In the streets, that kind of betrayal is unforgivable. And in hip-hop, where is considered worse than murder, the reaction was exactly what you'd expect. Jam got hit with wave after wave of backlash. Social media exploded. People were dissecting every piece of evidence, every rumor, every theory. Some tried to defend Jam, saying there wasn't enough proof, but most had already made up their minds. In their eyes, he was a rat. And in this culture, because the evidence and the street's reaction were both shocking, First, we need to understand how the feds were moving in this case. This wasn't some local beef. They weren't just bringing charges against Durk for one situation. They were painting FF as a criminal enterprise, trying to prove they used violence as a business model. 5 guys connected to FF tracked Quando Rando through Los Angeles like they were hunting him. Using 2 separate vehicles, they followed his black Cadillac Escalade, including rounds from a fully automatic weapon. Quando survived. His cousin, Servia Lupab Robinson, didn't. Here's what made people suspicious. How did the feds know so much? How did they know the planning, the coordination, the aftermath? The answer, according to multiple industry insiders, they had a snitch in the crew. Wack 100 didn't hold back. He said, "There's a guy named F Jam that was wired, very ironic name. Jam got him in a jam." Real talk, and when Wack talks about federal cases and informants, people listening's been around long enough to know the game. Wack continued, he did 12 years. Got out, interviewed, said he kept it real. Durk gave him cars, $50,000, a whole welcome home setup. Said there ain't no smut on his name. But then he caught a gun case and flipped. The timeline Wack laid out was damning. Got out in 2022 until Durk's arrest in 2024. He allegedly got caught up shortly after his release. While Durk was throwing him a welcome party, buying him a house and a car, handing him $50,000, he might have already been recording every conversation, every meeting, every moment of brotherhood contaminated by a wire. And why? Simple, self-preservation. Wack 100 claimed Jam. Caught a new gun case after his release and chose to flip instead of facing more prison time. Records show Jam was arrested in May 2023 on a warrant related to his previous case, but the details stayed under wraps. Here's the takedown, the psychology why someone like Jam might have made that decision. For someone who's done 12 years. He broke, according to him. Jam had been wearing a wire for 2 whole years from the time he...
OTF didn't help when OTF Jam baby mama was murdered while he was locked up, and it had him thinking worse about that situation.
This added a whole new layer to the story, one that had people questioning everything. Rumors started swirling that Durk had ordered the killing of Jam's baby mama, Octavia Redmond, who was shot and killed on July 19, 2024. Allegedly, this happened shortly after Durk found out Jam was cooperating. A 15-year-old was charged with her murder. And while there's no solid evidence directly linking Durk or FF to the crime, the timing had the streets talking. Word was, Octavia had reached out to Durk for legal help after Jam caught his new case, but Durk allegedly ignored her calls. If that's true, that might have been the moment Jam started to feel like FF wasn't really family after all. King Yellow spoke on it, too. He broke down how these kinds of situations where loyalty is tested and emotions run high can turn even the closest homies into straight-up enemies.
I done did my last bid 4 years, but they ain't do so certain. I felt the type of way when I knew you had money. Not meaning that I want to do some snake to you like that, but in my head, maybe, not no snitch, but I might want to do something to you.
That added a whole other layer to the story, one that made people question everything. There were rumors that Durk ordered the killing of Jam's baby mama, Octavia Redmond, who was shot and killed on July 19, 2024. Allegedly, after Durk found out Jam was cooperating, a 15-year-old was charged with her murder. While no solid evidence linked Durk or FF to the crime, the timing had people talking. Word on the street was that Octavia had reached out to Durk for legal help after Jam caught his new case, but Durk allegedly ignored her calls. If true, that might have been the turning point for Jam. The moment he stopped seeing FF as family. King Yella spoke on how situations like this can twist even the tightest bonds into bitter betrayal. That perspective highlighted how complex these street relationships really are. Even when someone shows you love and loyalty, if you feel like they weren't there when you needed them most, resentment builds. And in Jam's case, that resentment might have made him vulnerable to federal pressure. Evidence goes beyond rumors, but the allegations against Jam went way deeper than street gossip. According to prosecutors, recordings from their confidential informant played a key role in building the case against Durk. This wasn't just someone passing along vague tips. this was someone on the inside, providing hard court-admissible evidence. Things got even crazier when a song allegedly recorded by Jam surfaced online. The lyrics seemed to reference Durk and violence. Some blogs called it a diss track that incriminated Jam, though no one could confirm when or even if it was actually recorded. One of the alleged lyrics included, "Smirk is the voice. You heard what he said? So bullets behind it. We ain't F to tussle, only be rapping to kill me a rapper." So foreign got something to put in their music. Social media ran with it. Many saw it as proof that Jam had turned with posts claiming he had snitched on Durk and others allegedly involved in the King Von Get Back hit, Fake. Death rumors and internet memes things got so wild that fake news started circulating online, claiming Jam had been killed. The rumor was quickly debunked, but the fact that people believed it so easily showed just how deep the hate had gone. The internet took it further. Someone posted a video of Jam allegedly eating McDonald's during a federal interrogation, and social media roasted him. Bro snitched on Durk for a Big Mac and fries. As petty as it might seem, this kind of humor is how hip-hop processes betrayal, through jokes, memes, and cultural commentary. The community doesn't just criticize it ostracizes, Jam's silence made it worse for months after Durk's arrest. Jam stayed completely silent. No interviews, no statements, no public appearances. His absence only fueled speculation about what role he really played. Meanwhile, Durk sat in federal custody, facing the possibility of life in prison. And based on what was being said, a lot of the evidence was coming from someone with inside knowledge of how FF operated. Then, in December 2024, Jam finally broke his silence. He posted on Instagram stories denying that he ever betrayed Durk, and claiming the real truth would come out once legal discovery documents were released. His tone was bold and defiant when the discovery comes out. "You're gonna see I'm not how the feds got onto us or built their case. I'ma let the paperwork come out because it's gonna tell it all." But Jam didn't stop there. He went on the offensive, throwing shade at the very people who had shown him love and loyalty. He called out Durk directly, basically saying, if Durk didn't want to get incriminated, he shouldn't have gone to the crime scene. That statement had heads spinning. This was the same dude who, just 2 years earlier, was preaching brotherhood. Now he was shifting blame onto Durk, suggesting Durk brought the legal problems on himself. He also called out other FF members like Boona and Jerry, accusing them of spreading false stories. Even women associated with the crew like Lexio and Nikki Nicole were targeted in his rants. It was clear Jam was burning bridges with everyone, acting like someone who felt betrayed by the whole organization. The bold promise, discovery will prove it. All the most important part of Jam's message was his promise. When the legal documents drop, they'll prove his innocence and expose who really fed info to the feds. It was a bold claim, one that put a clock on the whole situation. Either the discovery would clear his name, or it would bury him deeper. The streets react to the reaction from the streets. Mixed. Some saw Jam's statement as desperate, like a guilty man trying to shift blame. Others started to wonder if the story was more complicated than it first seemed. But either way, everyone was now waiting for those court documents to hit. Durk's legal case starts to shift. Meanwhile, interesting developments in Durk's case were starting to support some of Jam's claims. In May 2025, prosecutors quietly removed references to Durk's song lyrics from a superseding indictment. Durk's legal team had argued that the government lied to the grand jury by using lyrics from a song called Wonderful Wayne and Jackie. Boy, even though the song had been recorded 7 months before the alleged crime, this was a big deal. If prosecutors were removing something that had been central to their case, it raised serious doubts about how solid their evidence really was. Eric Nielsen, a professor who studies how rap lyrics are used in court, publicly slammed the prosecution. He called their approach dangerously sloppy, accusing them of treating artistic expression as literal confessions without proper fact-checking. Paragraph 9. Deleted but the biggest bombshell. Legal observers noticed that the feds completely removed paragraph 9 from the original indictment. That paragraph specifically laid out the murder-for-hire payment structure, stating, at the direction of defendant Banks, defendant Wilson would pay the bounty or monetary reward and/or cause payment to be made for the killing of Senior Servia Robinson, aka Lou Pab, on behalf of co-conspirators. Now it was gone. Why? Probably because the evidence they were using to claim Durk ordered the hit wasn't as airtight as they thought. Hip-hop's history with betrayal to understand the weight of this moment. You have to look at hip-hop history. This isn't the first time a rapper's crew turned on them. The most infamous example, 6ix9ine and the 9 Trey Gangsta Bloods. When 6ix9ine got hit with RICO charges, he flipped immediately, testifying against his own crew to reduce his sentence. His cooperation was public and blatant, making him a permanent outcast in the culture. Then there's Gunna and the YSL RICO case. When Gunna took an Alford plea in December 2022, he had to admit in court that YSL was a gang. Even though it was a legal move, the streets saw it as
gang.
YSL is a music label and a gang. And you have personal knowledge that members or associates of YSL have committed crimes in furtherance of the gang.
Yes, right.
Even though Gunna maintained he wasn't cooperating, major rappers like Lil Durk, Lil Baby, Meek Mill, and Polo G unfollowed him on social media. The hip-hop community basically treated him like a snitch. His career took a major hit, and he's still trying to rebuild his reputation in the culture, but the F-Jam situation was different from both of those cases. Unlike 6ix9ine, there was no public testimony or explicit cooperation that anybody could point to, and unlike Gunna, there was no formal plea deal where Jam admitted anything in court. Instead, the allegations against Jam were based mostly on rumors, speculation, and circumstantial evidence. Still, the lack of concrete proof didn't stop the streets from passing judgment. Hip-hop culture is already deeply suspicious of anyone who might be working with law enforcement. So when the allegations against Jam started flying, a lot of people accepted them as fact, without waiting for real evidence. The situation got even messier when Durk's trial was delayed until October 2025. Due to the complexity of the case, prosecutors said they had over 230 gigabytes of digital evidence and more than 20,000 pages of reports. That meant the discovery documents Jam had promised would prove his innocence might not become public for months or even years. While all this legal drama was unfolding, Jam's whereabouts became a mystery. People speculated that he was staying away from Chicago due to safety concerns between the snitching allegations and his baby mama's murder. Jam had become a target from multiple angles. A bigger problem in the broader implications of this case go far beyond just Durk and Jam. It highlights the impossible position that people in hip-hop find themselves in when they're caught between loyalty and survival. King Yola explained the psychology behind it in a way that really made sense in these environments. Loyalty is everything until survival becomes the only option. And once you're forced to choose between doing life or doing what's best for yourself, even the realest ones can break.
And you got images. My OTF try to, you see, you know the GD, like, we don't give I ain't got no filter. You do something, I'm calling you out for it. That's what it is. That's how we was raised anyway. Yep. Try to keep they together so they won't look bad.
This observation highlights how the pressure to maintain street credibility and protect one's reputation can often clash with the harsh reality of facing decades in federal prison. The image of absolute loyalty that hip-hop culture celebrates doesn't always align with the complex decisions people are forced to make when the feds come knocking. Charleston White, never one to hold back his controversial opinions, weighed in on the whole situation with his typical unfiltered approach.
Nobody laughing at Durk like they were laughing at me when I went to jail. Lord have mercy. So ain't nobody laughing at Durk. Now it ain't funny. Now your favorite rapper go to jail and look like he got a no bond like me.
White. Like him or not, Charleston White's commentary, while always provocative, reflected a broader conversation happening within the hip-hop community. It's a conversation about the consequences of mixing street life with mainstream success and the responsibility that comes with influence. As we look ahead to the resolution of this case, several major questions remain unanswered. Or will they reveal even more damaging information? Can Durk's legal team successfully challenge the prosecution's case? Or will the federal government's resources prove too overwhelming? But perhaps the most important question is this: what will this entire situation mean for the culture of loyalty and brotherhood that has been central to hip-hop since day one? Whatever the outcome in court, The damage to relationships and reputations is already done. The bond between Durk and Jam, once seen as a symbol of unbreakable loyalty and real brotherhood, has been shattered by allegations and suspicions that may never be fully resolved. The trust that made their relationship so powerful is now the very thing that destroyed it.